There might be no Arsenal games, but that doesn't mean that Arsenal players are not playing. I've got all the updates from the international break so far to bring you today, as well as a story about a player who might be leaving Arsenal in the summer to go and join a team in the Club World Cup. Let's get started. Hello and welcome back to another episode of Arsenal Unfiltered, your 3 times a week dose of Arsenal coverage with me, your host Mark. We are back again with another episode of the Arsenal Roundup. I haven't had any in ages, and then 2 come along all at once, like London buses. It's because it's an international break, so we're kind of talking about news and stuff, so I think it's really important that we bring the Arsenal Roundup back so we can discuss all the news that's going on and principally the news around Arsenal players at the moment with their international performances. Now, some are very, very positive and some are negative. We are, of course, going to talk Miles Lewis-Skelly today after his wonderful man-of-the-match performance last night, but we're going to kind of go through all of the Arsenal players who have played so far this international break, discuss how they're getting on, what that means for when they get back, etc., etc., and discuss a couple of problems I think that have arisen. And then, of course, like I said at the top, there is a story about a player potentially leaving Arsenal in FIFA's kind of specially set up transfer window. I think it's the 1st to the 10th of June. So they've set up a special transfer window for the clubs that are in the Club World Cup. And an Arsenal player might be going to one of those teams, so stick around to find out who that is. But let's get started. Let's get into it with Spain versus Netherlands. So there was 3 Arsenal players who should have been involved in this game. Jurrien Timber, Mikel Merino and David Raya. David Raya on the bench for the whole game. Unai Simon came back in, so not really much to talk about with David Raya. Not really much to talk about with Jurrien Timber either, because he was out with illness. A bit of a worry that for me. Let's hope that hasn't been anything too serious and he is generally fine, because he is coming into a period of the season that is going to be really important for him. The Real Madrid games are going to be massive. He is going to need to be right at it, isn't he, to deal with the likes of Vinny Jr. and Kylian Mbappe. Vinny Jr. who's just scored for Brazil this international break, and we'll talk about that in a bit. But yeah, we need Jurrien Timber on it. So let's hope that this is not a big illness. Maybe it was just a little stomach bug or something like that, a flu, and he will be right as rain in a couple of weeks' time. I don't think Ben White is fit enough yet to kind of come in and do that spot for us. I think Ben White is plenty good enough, but he's not fit enough, and Jurrien Timber is clearly having an all-time season at the moment from his perspective. So really hope he is not, too affected by that illness. One player who we can talk about was Mikel Merino. Again, he didn't start the game. Quite pleased about that. I like when these players go away that they're getting their training, but they're not doing, 2 full 90s, especially Arsenal players. I think that's really important. So Mikel Merino, he came off the bench, and it was an ideal scenario for him, because not only did he come off the bench around, I think, like the 85th minute, he scored a very, very late equaliser. So not only does he continue his scoring form, but he's not had to do all that much running to do it. It's a bit of a scrappy goal. It is a very poacher's instinct goal. The number 9 arc continues, right? He continues to impress with his movement and his instincts in the box. A save from the Holland keeper falls to him and he tucks it home. They're Nation League games, these ones, so they matter a little bit. So I'm sure Spain and Mikel Merino will be really, really happy that they got that late equaliser and scored the goal. A player who's probably not going to be super happy is William Saliba. He's lost 2-0 in their game against Croatia. Played the full 90 minutes, and I think it could have been worse for France. They also avoided Croatia scoring a penalty as well, so it could have been 3. Would have been a very bad night for him to concede 3 goals, and hopefully for them, they can turn it around and maybe he can have a good game on, I believe it's Sunday that they play, so I believe that's tomorrow. So fingers crossed for him. A player who had a very bad night, and this is a real worry for us, is Ricardo Calafiori. And why did he have a bad night? Well, not only did he play basically the full match, but he had to receive extensive treatment for his knee. He had a slip, and it was very, very similar, this slip. If you haven't seen the video, go and find it. It is super similar to the injury that he suffered earlier in the season for us, where it's not part of a challenge. He's not kind of hit by anyone. It's not a contact injury, but he slips and his legs kind of start doing the splits really, and one knee kind of collapses in a little bit more. It's not a good sign, and principally because he has had to return from the Italian camp already, and he's back at Arsenal now, receiving treatment for this injury. It is likely he will be out for 2 to 3 weeks. Early reports suggest it could be more. Those knees, caving knees can be anything. That's how you do your ACL typically, a caving knee, so let's hope it's not that, but hope it's just kind of a minor sprain, a level 1 sprain, which he can get over quite quickly, because we need a lot of players. We need players fit and ready. He is back at Arsenal getting treatment. Another left back, or another set at left backs that we should mention, Kieran Tierney. He got a very short cameo in Scotland's win versus Greece, and Zinchenko played the full match in Ukraine versus Belgium. I think they got a shock win there. So Leandro Trossard is obviously part of that Belgian team as well. He won't be too happy, and they'll have a second leg, I believe, in the kind of relegation playoffs to decide that match. Before we come on to Friday night and Mars Lewis-Skelly, we need to talk Gabriel, another left-sided defender. He played the full match versus Colombia. Again, not super happy about that. One thing I am happy about, though, his booking means that he is now suspended for his next game. So he will only play one game in this period, which is not good news for Brazil. They want all their best players available, but for us, absolutely brilliant that he will not be even allowed to play. So he won't even be travelling to the ground, most likely, unless he goes as a spectator, but he won't be in and around the team. He will have the night off, which is really good news for Arsenal, and hopefully means that he gets back to England a little bit quicker and a little bit fresher as well. Okay, left-sided defenders, left backs, left centre-backs. We're on a right theme here, and it would be remiss of me to not talk about Mars Lewis-Skelly. What a guy. What a guy. I mean, I'm going to quickly just pull up my Blue Sky post from last night and read that out to you, because I think this kind of sums up his year. MLS's season is absolutely wild. Prem debut in September. Champions League debut in October, first professional goal in February, England debut in March, all at 18 years of age. Unbelievable talent and composure. And then, obviously, I posted that just before the game. I had a string of responses around his goal and saying I missed something off the list, a debut goal. I mean, that's quite incredible, isn't it? From September to 21st of March, he has got his Prem debut, Champions League debut, first professional goal, England debut, first England goal. Absolutely wild. A goal and the man of the match even, for MLS. Declan Rice got an assist in this game. It was nice to see that. Nice to see him playing in that kind of more deeper role. I thought it was interesting how his assist played out, in the sense that he'd been playing more of that kind of 6-esque role. I know it was sort of a double pivot in the England setup, but he was playing more as a 6. And it was very interesting how he arrived late to the box, picked the ball up, I think, off Kyle Walker, and provided a nice ball in for Kane. Yes, the defender needs to do better, but I actually thought, oh, that's interesting. It's interesting to see Declan Rice doing that from the 6, because that's a ball that we like to play a lot, that kind of arriving in that kind of zone, just to the right-hand side of zone 14, whipping the ball over towards the back post. That's how England scored their second goal last night. And it was interesting to see Rice doing that bit rather than kind of crashing the box and being on the end of it. But let's talk more about Mars Lewis-Skelly, second youngest Arsenal player ever to play for England. I mean, I think that is behind Theo Walcott, but ahead of the likes of Alex Oxlade-Chamberlain, Bukayo Saka, Jack Wilshere. So some good names on that list, and he was the second youngest to play for England. He is also the third youngest England goal scorer ever, and the youngest player to score on his debut now. Incredible stats for him that he racked up last night. I think he had a really good game generally as well. It's a smart finish. Look, Bellingham has done his job, hasn't he? What a pass that is, and a bit of a warning sign for us as Arsenal fans as to what Jude Bellingham can do. He's been right at it after, I think, a slow start to the season. He's been right at it for Real Madrid, and he carried that form on for England last night. It's a wonderful pass, and we are going to have to be aware of this guy because he is something special. It's a brilliant pass into Mars Lewis-Skelly. It's a really smart finish as well. On top of the smart finish, he had the most ball recoveries of any player on the pitch and won 3 out of 3 duels, so a 100% duel win rate. I'm just going to read the Declan Rice quote at the end of the game. He and Mars Lewis-Skelly were interviewed on the pitch on ITV. Declan Rice on Miles Lewis-Skelly. He's fearless. He does everything right off the pitch. He prepares himself. He prepares himself. He's only 18. I tried to look after him as best I can, but I knew he was going to play like that tonight because of the confidence he has in himself and the way he's trained all week and what I've seen at the club. I think that's so interesting. Declan Rice is a seasoned pro, and he's talking about, I was going to try and look after this kid, but he just doesn't need it. And it is quite incredible how he has stepped up. How he has come into the Arsenal team and the England team now. He's come into the Arsenal team and made that spot his own. Let's not forget, this summer we signed Ricardo Calafiori for 42 million. Yes, he has had some injury issues and it looks like he's going to be out a little bit longer. So that's given opportunities to Miles Lewis-Skelly. It's presented him with chances, but Miles Lewis-Skelly has gone and taken those chances. And I think right now, certainly this might change in the summer, or things might develop. But right now, Miles Lewis-Skelly is the first choice left back at Arsenal. Is he the first choice left back at England? That's an interesting question, isn't it? I mean, Luke Shaw, I just don't think you can rely on him. So really, we're looking at Lewis Hall, I think. Probably his only other, contest. And look, Lewis Hall's had a very good year. He will have a very good England career, I would imagine, and a very good Newcastle career, and probably beyond Newcastle as well. So I don't want to discount Lewis Hall. But from there, where are you looking? Tino Livramento has played well at left back when he's been called on there, but he is more of a right back, and I can see him being a long-term replacement, or at least a long-term squad member behind Trent Alexander-Arnold, as soon as we kind of move on from Kyle Walker, which I think it is time, Mr. Tuchel, I think it is time. We need to move on from Kyle Walker. I think it will be Trent, when he's fit, that takes that spot. And then I can see Tino Livramento being the backup to him. I'm really racking my brain for a left back, an English left back who is playing really, really well, or a right back who can play over there. We've seen Trippier over there. I don't rate him over there, and plus he's getting on a bit now as well. I think Miles Lewis-Skelly's got a real shout. It will be between him and Lewis Hall, I think. They've both had fantastic seasons. They're both fantastic players. It will likely be the scenario where those two are the two that are going in the squads, and they're fighting it out for that position. We'll have to see how that develops, because that's going to be really, really interesting. Of course, Arsenal have not had a English left back for a very, very long time, not since Ashley Cole. And Ashley Cole did a decent job at England and club level, didn't he? So he's one that MLS can try and model himself after. I'm just endlessly impressed with this kid's confidence and as well his talent levels. A whirlwind season for him. So proud of him. So proud that he's at Arsenal. So proud that he's a HLN player. And I think, all that work that Per Mertesacker puts in behind the scenes, off the pitch, where he's spoken before about bringing these guys up as young men as well as great footballers. I think you can see all the product of that in Miles Lewis-Skelly, because he is clearly an incredibly confident, composed young man who is able to have a year like he is having and keep his feet on the ground. There's horrible narratives about him in the media and social media. People will always try and get at him, unfortunately. He's a young man who plays for Arsenal, so people are always going to go for him, but also he is a young man of colour, and we know social media is a toxic place where the worst of the worst in our society come out, and Miles Lewis-Skelly, even that photo of him arriving at the England camp, has seen a lot of horrible comments, horrible kind of reactions, people saying things that, if he was white, I really don't think that they would say. It's a horrible, horrible world that he is exposed to, and he's just taking it in his stride. And I understand. I switched off the game at this point, but I understand he was given an ovation as he came off the pitch last night in sort of the 89th minute. So I'm just delighted to see him keep his narrative, keep the narrative of him being a wonderful footballer, and drown out the negative noise around him, because what a player, what a character, what a confident young man. And I really, really hope that he continues on this vein. Partey also played last night. He got 83 minutes versus Chad, and Kivior got 90 minutes versus Lithuania. We do have more games coming up for our players. Erdegaard plays tonight versus Moldova. hopefully that is a pretty quiet game for him. And then, like I mentioned before, we've got some games on Sunday, kind of the second legs of those Nation League games. So Saliba will play versus Croatia. Calafiori was meant to play versus Germany, but he will not play anymore because he is back with Arsenal. Tierney will have a game versus Greece again, and Marino and Raya will face up against the Netherlands again. Timber, will he be well enough to start that game? Let's see, with Trossard and Zinchenko playing against each other again. And then on Monday, we'll have Partey again against Madagascar. England play Latvia, so that'll be Lewis Skelly and Rice. And Poland, Kivior will play Malta. The one for me that is not ideal is Ødegaard. He will play Israel on Tuesday. That's quite late, although we do have our next Premier League game on Tuesday against Fulham. So, look, it's, we're going to be okay on that front, but I would have liked it maybe to have been a little over 7 days for him to have off. That will be that. We will be in a really good spot, basically, I think, as long as everyone kind of survives those injuries and, Timber gets fit and the Calafiori one isn't too bad and everyone survives the next few games. We will have a week or more for our players off. I think that's kind of healthy and a good place to be. So, look, I will keep an eye on these. I will update you briefly as to where we're at. And, of course, if Miles Lewis-Skelly produces another performance like he did last night against Latvia, I'm sure we'll be talking about it again. Let's talk very, very quickly then about Jorginho. Jorginho has been spotted in Brazil. He's travelled to Flamengo. Now, it's a weird one because he is Brazilian. By background, he's got an Italian nationality. He plays for the Italian national team, but he is originally from Brazil. So, could he just be there on his holidays? He's allowed to take time off. He's allowed to travel. He's not short of a few quid, so I'm sure he's having a lovely holiday when he's out there. It just seems odd. Flamengo came in for him in January. Arsenal said, no, we can't afford to lose any players. And now he is in Brazil in the first kind of opportunity that he gets to travel. And I spoke before about this kind of weird new transfer window that's opened up for teams in the Club World Cup, 1st to the 10th of June, to allow them to augment their squads for that tournament that's going to take place this summer. Flamengo are one of the 6, I'm going to try and say it, CONMEBOL representatives from South Africa. So Flamengo are looking to strengthen their team for that tournament. And to be fair, they could do a lot worse than Jorginho. He is a player that, I think if Jorginho had the legs of Declan Rice or even the legs of Thomas Partey, right? He would be a wonderful, wonderful player. He is so good with a forward pass or a creative pass. He's so smart. He really reads the game very, very well. And look, he had a very bad game in his last game for Arsenal against PSV. I think he was basically at fault for both of the goals, unfortunately. But he is still an incredibly good player, and Flamengo could do a lot worse than get Jorginho in this summer. He will be out of contract this summer. But he won't be out of contract, weirdly, by the time this weird transfer window opens up. So I don't know what will happen there. 1st to the 10th of June, will they be allowed to sign Jorginho, but he's still not out of contract with us, so will it be a free transfer? It's quite confusing. He should be going basically on the 1st of July when his contract expires. So whether Arsenal help him out, sort him the transfer early, or I understand there's some money costs as well. It's all a bit unclear right now. So watch this space, but I do think it's looking more and more likely that both Partey and Jorginho will leave Arsenal this summer. And looks like Jorginho is off to Flamengo to play in the Club World Cup. So you know what? I'm going to wish him well. I really hope he enjoys the kind of twilight of his career out there. And I think fair play to him for going back to Brazil. He could go to MLS and get a big payout, but he's going to go back to Brazil, probably not get as much money, but play in an environment that maybe suits him a little bit more. And I think actually he will extend his career by going to a league like the Brazilian National League. Because, it's not quite as fast-paced as the English league. It's very physical, it's very nasty, but it's not as fast-paced. And he might actually form himself a really good, maybe 2-3 more years. So that's exciting for him, and I really do wish him well. I'm going to leave it there, guys. It's an international break, so it's a kind of weird time for Arsenal news. Obviously, the big story is Miles Lewis-Skelly. We've gone through that. We've gone through all the players and how they've done in the international break. Fingers crossed for Calafiori, fingers crossed for Timber, that they are minor things and we are not sweating on those guys for weeks and weeks left. Yeah, I've enjoyed that one. It's always good to talk Arsenal. It's always good to talk to Arsenal players and see how they get on when they are away from the Arsenal. If you have enjoyed this episode of the Arsenal Roundup or any of my episodes, any match reviews that we do, please do consider following me wherever you get your podcasts from or leaving a review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. It really helps the podcast grow. I am going to be back next week with probably another episode of the Arsenal Roundup if any news comes out, but also with that all-important Fulham preview for that game, not this Tuesday coming, but the Tuesday after, because I think that's really important for our Champions League tie against Real Madrid, that we use that game and the game against Everton to start looking at how are we going to play against Real Madrid. Can we warm up any strategies that we're going to use against the new Galacticos? Can we get ready for them in any way against Fulham and Everton? So I think that'll be really interesting to preview that game and see what we might do. I'm going to leave it there, guys. Thank you for following. Thank you for listening, and I will speak to you very soon.